Welcome back to Gangs All Here, our Jets podcast from the New York Post. Jake Brown, Brian Costello. Only one loss for the Jets, but it feels like a lot more. A lot of, turmoil on Twitter. Twitter turmoil we'll get into, and the Jets lose 30-10 in Dallas to the Cowboys. Kaz, you were there in Dallas, and my quick takeaways to open up here is they still are babying Zach Wilson. They did not run the football enough. There were hardly any runs today. 4 from Breece, 4 from Dalvin, 2 from Michael Carter. I did not expect when we would talk tonight, Kaz, that Zach Wilson would be the Jets' leading rusher on the day by a long shot. That is shocking to me. Another observation, which we already knew, the Cowboys' defense is one of the best in the league. They come after the quarterback, they attack, they stack the box. And they were ready. The Jets were outmanned. They were outcoached. They were outplayed. They were outclassed. And the Jets kept it fairly interesting because they gave up a lot of field goals instead of touchdowns. But you knew the Jets weren't scoring 30 points. And, they were in this game for the first half and a bit of the third quarter. But then the Cowboys kind of ran away with this one.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, I think the first thing I said last week on the podcast after Rodgers went down was the Jets can still win games, but they got to run the ball, play defense, right? And not turn it over, basically. That's the formula. We saw that last year when they were winning games in October with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and they did none of that against the Cowboys. Now, I will say, I think the Cowboys are a really, really good team, and they had talent all over the fields, everywhere, and they might be the best team the Jets play this season. The Philadelphia Eagles might have something to say about that. Mm-hmm. I think they have more talent than the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs have the greatest quarterback I've ever seen. So but just, if you go 1-22 playing, the Cowboys are loaded everywhere. So, take that for what it's worth. I do think this was a game where the Jets were not playing in their weight class without Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. But, Jake, you highlighted the offense. To me, the defense was the story here. You know how I felt about them saying they're going to be the 85 Bears. Like, be careful. Just be careful when you talk like that, because you go out and you give up. The Cowboys had 83 plays, Jake. So I don't know if how much casual fans follow the play count. Play count tells you a lot. Play count is typically 60 to 70 plays. That's where you want to be. That's good. The Jets today were at 46, I think, which is terrible offensively, but 83 plays means you could not get your ass off the field. They give up 9 third downs to the Cowboys. Yes, they held them to field goals a lot, but they just didn't make a play. Like, is there one defensive play that Solomon Thomas had a sack? Okay, but like they just didn't really impact the game. And you saw a defense on the other side that impacted the game, right? With takeaways, with the pressure that they put on Zach Wilson, with stopping the run. The Cowboys defense is better than the Jets defense based on what I saw today. So, I just think that's my big takeaway, Jake. It's one game against a really good team, so I wouldn't get carried away, but that's my takeaway.
Yeah, I mean, you look at 2 stats, and that's the telling story, Cos. 4 turnovers, and then time of possession, 42 minutes to 18. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't even remotely close there. And, I get they were down early, and I get the Cowboys, stacked the box. I think 28% of the Jets rushing plays, they had 8+ guys in the box. But you got to establish the run. We said this, on the preview show. You can't just quit on the run. It's not like the game was over in the second quarter. They were down by a touchdown. It was far from over. The pass interference in the end zone was a killer. A 10-7 game becomes 18-7 instead of 13-7.
Penalty, that series, Jake, so they hit the 68-yarder to Garrett Wilson, right? It's 10-7. Mm-hmm. You got some life. The Cowboys get the ball back. They move it a little bit. Dak throws one to Sauce. Sauce, great player.
Would have been pick 6. Yeah.
You got to catch that ball.
Yeah.
You catch that ball. If he does a pick 6, the Jets now have a lead. Now you're talking about, now they can come out, run the ball, do whatever they want. Instead, he drops the ball. They go down. They get 3rd down and 7 at the 11, I think it was. JFM called for a roughing the passer, which I did not think was a good call.
Terrible penalty, I thought. That was – I get go for his ankles, but That was very
I thought he was
ticky-tack stuff.
pushed. I gotta watch it again. I thought he was pushed into it. I talked to JFM afterwards. He was careful of what he said, but he said he talked to the official. Official said he thought he hit him below the knees. JFM didn't think he did. So, and then
He's had a few of those too, and I thought that was the least of the bad. In the past years, he's had a few. I think it was in Houston. He did the same thing.
The big one was last year against Mac Jones.
New England, yeah.
When there was the pick six.
Pick six, yeah.
Yeah. So and then the penalty on Eccles, which again, I haven't. You've probably seen it more than I have. Watching it live, I didn't look like an obvious PI call to me, but I'm not sure. But so then they get 18 there. Jake, it's 18-7. It's just a different football game, and like there was, as bad as the final score was, I do think there were things you can point to in the first half where the Jets could have made this a better game. Obviously, Zach. Then they drive down the field. He has Garrett wide open. I thought he got hit. He said DeMarcus Lawrence touched the ball coming out of his hand, kind of hit the ball.
Yeah, the ball got hit. Yep.
Yeah, so that becomes a field goal. And then a play earlier in the game, Jake, which I think will probably get lost. They pin the Cowboys back at the 2 or the 5, and there's a penalty that puts them at the 2 or 3 yard line. They hit this long pass to CeeDee Lamb, and I think it was Sauce strips it out of his hands. And there's a fumble on the ground. And did you see who recovered that ball, Jake?
I don't remember.
The Cowboys center recovered it 31 yards down the field. Think about that. The center recovered it 31 yards down the field. Awesome play by the Cowboys center. But how do the Jets not get that fumble recovery? Mm-hmm. How do you not get that? So as like the game completely got away from them in the second half, but this could have been a different game in the first half if they got to be a team now where you're back to this, like we talked about last year. There's no margin for error, right? You've got, like, especially against a team like the Cowboys, there's no margin for error. You've got to take advantage of opportunities, and they just didn't do that, Jake.
And listen, you're right about the defense was good. They should have had takeaways, but they were also on the field all day because the offense sucked. I mean, they didn't run the clock.
But you're on the off. But they gave up 9 third downs, Jake.
Yeah,
you're the 85 Bears, right? You said it. You want us to hold to that standard, right? They think they're a good defense. I'm not being a jerk. They think they're a really good defense. You want to be a top 5 defense. You want to be the number 1 defense in the NFL. Get off the field. If they kept getting off the field, and the offense was doing nothing, you could say something. But they couldn't get off the field, Jake. They just kept giving up third downs to them. And then Dak Prescott came out. He completed his first 13 passes. How is that possible?
Yeah.
13 passes?
No, yeah. It wasn't a good defensive performance. The blame goes around. I mean, Zach Wilson, and then in the second half, it gets away from him. He starts being the old Zach Wilson and making nonchalant throws that not making. What are you doing there?
Yeah, he's just trying to make a play. I mean, I have to go back and watch them, but I think he's just forcing things, trying to make a play. But yeah, he didn't play well. Like this whole idea, about all how confident he was and everything that people were pushing. He's got to show it. Now, I will say this, Jake. This was kind of telling in the locker room after the game when we went. Zach did his press conference, and we all went into the locker room. When he came in, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzama, I think Jeremy Ruckert was there too. Were all around Zach, and they were basically telling him, like, "We got your back. We believe in you." Like, they were giving him like a major pep talk, which I feel like that's not something I've ever seen before. So I do think these guys believe in him more than they did last year. And, there was a lot of people rallying around Zach in the locker room after the game.
Yeah, and the talk is all great. That's all great. I want to see it. And I think Dallas is going to be a tough test, but, we'll preview the New England game Thursday, but they got to go out and beat New England. Like, he's had the worst of times against the Patriots. You're at home. Next week's a big one for the Jets. Again, I don't want to go too heavy on that. The Patriots are a team looking for their first win. So they're going to be hungry coming to MetLife Stadium against a team that they absolutely own forever and ever for the last 20 years. So that's going to be a big game for Zach next week to prove himself. But what do you think about the run game? Because listen, Nathaniel Hackett's had all the success in the world as a coordinator when Aaron Rodgers is quarterback. But when Aaron Rodgers is not his quarterback, last year and now Zach Wilson, he hasn't. It seems like he hasn't adjusted.
But he's got the Jaguars year. The Jaguars year was good. They all point to that. But
yeah,
I mean,
What happened there? Why? Like, what do you think they quit on the run too early?
There was no rhythm, Jake. I mean, they couldn't really establish anything. So I have to go back and watch it a little more closely to see what happened. But just felt like they had a lot of negative plays too. Like they were going backwards in the run game, which was troubling. And I think they have kind of a dicey proposition right now, Jake. Like Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook are both coming off surgeries where the Jets don't want to overuse them, and it's tricky to do that with two guys. It's hard to do with one guy. Like that was kind of the whole idea. Was like, oh, sign Dalvin Cook if Breece isn't ready. Well, Dalvin Cook had shoulder surgery in February. Didn't have any spring. Basically, didn't have training camp. He came at the very end of training camp. So to expect him to go in there and be like a 25 carry a game guy, like that wasn't going to happen. So
but they went from 11 to 4 to Breece. Four freaking carries. Come on.
But Jake, 46 plays, right?
Yeah.
How many of those were probably when the game was like out of hand? Maybe half, something like that. So now you're down to like 20, let's say 25 plays that they had where they were in the game. They had 8 runs to those two guys, plus I think Michael Carter had a couple runs. So the numbers are low, but all the numbers are low because you had 46 plays. Like that's nothing. That's nothing in the NFL. So I just think everything was skewed, and they didn't break a big one, right? That's what they did last week against the Bills. Breece obviously broke a couple big ones, and they didn't have that in this game.
2 games in, and we already have a drama. And here's the problem with Twitter and these young guys and the egos. Sauce Gardner has deactivated his Twitter. He did fire off a tweet after the game before deactivating. I mean, these guys just got to keep it internal. I mean, this is ridiculous. We see this, I've seen it with Mitchell Robinson in the Knicks when he tweets something and then immediately deletes it when he's mad. But, he quote tweeted a tweet that said, CeeDee Lamb when lined up versus Sauce Gardner tonight, which these aren't actually true, but it's exactly why you shouldn't be reading Twitter right after the game. 11 receptions, 143 yards, 1 win, 0 incompletions. He quoted it saying, "Damn, y'all really love saying my name on this app, lol. He didn't catch a ball on me today. Source : me." Within an hour, his Twitter was deactivated. He's talking a lot. Breece Hall, after the game to the media, I mean, I only got 4 touches. That's why we struggled. It is what it is. Cause it's not good. And then Breece Hall went on to tweet 4 football emojis, ... which we assume signifies the 4 carries. And then he deleted that tweet, did not deactivate his account. But it's week 2, 1 loss into the season. We already have Twitter fingers, Twitter drama, cause this is not good. And like Sauce should not be worried about someone tweeting the fake stats about him. Worry that your team lost the game. And that's the problem. I love Sauce. He's a great player. You love Breece, but you can't let the ego get the best of you. There's no I in team, guys. These are not good signs. I don't want to overreact. It's one game, but this should not be coming out of a locker room, coming out of a phone on Twitter for a team that, like you said, should be 85 Bears that's going to contend for a Super Bowl. This can't happen, especially in week 2.
The Sauce one doesn't bother me as much as Breece. Jake, I agree with you. These guys need to get off social media, like especially after a game. They really shouldn't be looking at social media after a loss. Like, just bad idea. I'll never forget like when I realized this generation, because it was a while. Twitter was around for a while before it really became like this. Like Darren Lee was the first guy I remember. He was somebody tweeted something in a practice, and he was like in the locker room waiting for us about what was tweeted. And I'm like, oh boy, these guys come back to their room and they look at the phone. So Sauce is just fighting with fans, so whatever, that's fine. Breece is basically calling out Nathaniel Hackett. That's the way I take it. If he's saying 4 carries was the problem, which that's not good. And it does remind me Quincy Enunwa one time, was complaining about the play calling after the game in Jacksonville. So yeah, I mean, look, I think everyone's frustrated after a loss. These guys all want to be a bigger part of the game. I understand Breece's frustration, but he probably should keep that in-house.
Yeah, Quincy Enunwa had the famous quote, I don't call the
I
play.
don't
That's
call
why they
the
lost the game.
plays. Yeah.
I mean, it's too early to be starting drama with your offensive coordinator. But,
Yeah.
Hackett has me underwhelmed. So it's early. Let's see if he can adjust his act.
It's 2 games, Jake.
But they also do not attempt, besides the Garrett, slant, which was just all Garrett at yards after catch. They don't attempt to throw more than 19, 20 yards with Zach Wilson. Stop babying this guy. He's in his third season. Let's see a kind of ball down the field, Kyle.
That pass rush is tough to throw down the field on. Okay. You need time to throw the ball down the field. He did not have time. I'll give you my little critique. Okay. I'm not an offensive genius by any stretch. But if I was, and I was game planning for a team like the Dallas Cowboys, I'd probably go, all right, who do I not want to wreck this game? Oh, that number 11 guy looks pretty good, Micah Parsons. I am going to say to my team, wherever he is, that's where we're sliding the protection. Every time we are going to get 4 hands on Micah Parsons on every single play that we can. If you're Zach, if you go over there, move the running back over there to get hands on him. Move a tight end. Do whatever you have to do. Don't let this guy destroy the game. If we block him and DeMarcus Lawrence kills us, hey, I live with it. Jake, Micah Parsons was like on single block. Like I know the Jets fans probably hate Dwayne Brown right now, but nobody could. Like Anthony Munoz couldn't have blocked him. The guy is ridiculous. You can't block him with one person, and he really wrecked the game. He was I think he had 9 pressures, 2 sacks. Was just a beast. So that's the part to me, Jake, when you're talking about game plan stuff, I just don't quite understand. Obviously, the guy's going to get his sometimes, but it felt like it was way too easy.
And I'm sorry, Garrett Wilson, 2 catches. You tweeted it, and he immediately had a touchdown right after you tweeted. So I give you all the credit for that. It was literally, I think, within 30 seconds. I mean, did you have a timer? Do you know the exact time?
Well, I did it right before the play. I just said, I'm like, you just got to get him the ball somehow, which, yeah, because I think at that point he had no catches, right? Yeah, he had no catches. Mm-hmm. I don't think even maybe targeted once or something like that. But yeah, like that's the other part is just get the football in the hands of the playmakers. Like that, to me, with this offense now, this offense is not going to be like, hey, let's scheme up this stuff and manufacture things. It's put the ball in the hands of your best players. Get Garrett Wilson the ball. Get Breece Hall the ball. Get these guys the football. They're home run hitters, Jake, and Garrett showed that today. Breece has shown that plenty of times in the past. One touch could be a touchdown. And so, like, you just got to maximize them. And Breece is a little tricky coming off the knee, like I said. But that would be my focus if I was Nathaniel Hackett.
I mean, they couldn't even execute a screen pass to perfect. I mean, there were a couple where Zach was throwing him sidearm, trying to fit him between 3 offensive linemen. And
there was a lot of guys coming at him, Jake. I'll just say that. Here's another one, Jake, I'm kind of puzzled at, okay? I can remember when they signed McCole Hardman that day, and I talked to people inside the Jets, and they were so excited. This guy, you wait till you see what this guy can do. He's so fast, and he's not just a gadget guy. We're going to do this with him. We're going to do that with him. He's going to be great. We're going to do jet sweeps. We're going to do this, that.
1 catch, 6 yards, nothing.
He's invisible. He wasn't even on the field, Jake. He played 1 snap in the first 3 quarters on offense. Last week, he played 0 snaps. So something's going on there. Like there was clearly a shift away from him in training camp that was noticeable. Like all of a sudden, Randall Cobb was out there a hell of a lot more than McCole Hardman. But I argue this with Mims all the time. Guys who have like crazy speed, like I don't get like 5 plays in the game plan for them just to try to take advantage of that speed. So that part's puzzling to me too, what they're doing with Hardman.
I said in the last show, you joke with me, reverse sweep, anything. Like get him in the backfield, get him in motion, get him around, do a little dipsy doo-dah day, get something. I don't know what I'm doing here, surfing, but get him involved. I mean, good God. If you're not going to run the ball, get it to your gadget guy. If he's more than a gadget guy, show us. My God, 2 games, he's been absolutely invisible. Last week, too, there was nothing out of him. So
last week he didn't even play. He didn't play 1 snap, Jake.
Yeah,
1 snap on offense last week. He played special teams, and this week was 1 in the first 3 quarters. So the fourth quarter, you're putting everybody out there. Like, it's just he's playing because you have 4 or 5 receivers on the field. I just don't get it. They were so excited about him. You gave him $4 million, and I don't know. Makes no sense.
He's here. It's not like he had surgery. He came late. He's been here. You've had all this time to figure out a place for him. So you're right. I think something must be going on there behind the scenes. We don't know what it is, but it's getting ridiculous.
He seems like a good dude to me, Jake. I've talked to him a few times. He seems like a really good guy. Like I just don't get it. So yeah, like I want to, we're going crazy on everything. We can't overreact to this game. Cowboys are. I think when you look up at the end of the season, you're gonna be like, yeah, Cowboys are gonna be a 2 or 3 loss team. I think, Jake, they're that good. So this loss might look different in December when we see how good the Cowboys are.
And it's early to say must win, but in my mind, it's a have to win. The Patriots is a have to win. When you got the Chiefs coming to town next week, the Denver game will be tough. Denver had a very fancy Hail Mary to almost tie the game, but missed the 2-point conversion. The Eagles, I mean, the schedule. I don't need to go through every week. It's difficult. It's not a must win, but I think fans are going to really panic if you lose at home once again to the Patriots. Because I was watching the Patriots game tonight, Sunday night, and yeah, they made it interesting. But Mac Jones could be really bad, and he makes a lot of mistakes. The Jets should be able to put all the pressure on him. I don't want to do a full preview here, but you got to beat the Pats. So, I'll let this one, I'll wipe away this one. It was rough. And, another thing on the offensive line, Dwayne had a bad game, but can you run behind Mekhi Becton? You put him on the right side. Can you run plays on the right side and let Highway 77 do his work? I feel like they didn't really, let the O-line gel and play to their best abilities because they never ran behind Mekhi. And Dwayne wasn't good. Dwayne came back, like he said, everyone. He came back a lot quicker than they were expecting him to. Maybe he came back too quick, guys. This O-line was probably regressed from last week.
They were against a much better front, Jake.
Yeah.
I do think, I don't want to go too far here, but Micah Parsons is he's the closest thing I've ever seen to Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he is unbelievable. He's so good. He's so fast and big, and he has moves. Where was he? What number was he drafted? Because it's insane that he was not drafted higher. Yeah, he was in the teens, right?
He was Hearts. Find out. I think he was 11 or something.
But Lawrence Taylor,
12th. He was the 12th pick in 2020.
12th pick. It's insane. 12th pick. How'd that happen? Because I think if you look at the 11 guys in front of him, I'm going to guess there's not many who are even close. Trevor has 2000. Was that 21 Hearts that he was drafted?
2021, yeah.
So Lawrence, right? But can't be many others that compare. So yeah, I saw this offensive line. Let's see. The Patriots are good, but they're not like the Cowboys. So let's see how they fare against them. This was a really good defense they played against.
My positives takeaway, Zach, he had that great stretch of running the ball. I want to see more of that. I keep talking about he has the ability to run. He never does it. He looked comfortable in that 2-minute drill running the ball, and I'd like to see that throughout all 4 quarters, guys.
Yeah, well, that's one, if you're talking about Jake, there's a lot of, talk of improvement that you can't – I just can't see that people talk about. That was improvement. His feel for when to run, I thought that was the best I've ever seen him, just knowing to take off and run. I do think the last one he probably shouldn't have run, but he did pretty well on that drive, knowing when to take off. So yeah, I don't think you can live like that, Jake, but that was a positive.
It's maybe a little nitpicky, but after the game, I mean, can you say you were bad? I mean, everyone wants to do the positive takeaways. Sal's going to say we saw good things. Can you say for once you sucked? I mean, you had good moments. You didn't cost the Jets the game.
You wanted Zach to say
you sucked. Why can't anyone just take accountability and say, I could have been better? He was like, I did good things. I didn't think he lost him the game, but I wish he was like, I could have been much better. And I feel like he never says that. That's something that hasn't changed.
I didn't think he was that bad. I'd have to go back and look at what he exactly said. I didn't think he was saying he played well or anything. Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes I think it comes across as disingenuous too, Jake, when people do that, right? I think I've covered some quarterbacks where the loss is on me. We lost the game, loss is on me.
I like him to say that though once. He's never done that. Like if he did
Yeah,
that once, I think that would stand out, and I think it would stand out to the locker room. It was like, I was bad, and then guys will rally around that. Maybe it's corny, maybe I'm wrong, but I just wish he would do that once.
okay. All right. I'll
It's
tell
just
him.
don't tell him. But maybe
Hey, Zach, there's this guy, Jake, I do a podcast with. He wants to you after a game to say, I suck. All right. Can you do that? Can you handle it?
if he does it next week after a win, I'll laugh. Well, listen, he he had his moments. Another positive. I love them going for the fake run. I love fourth
Yeah,
and
it was
one
good.
fake punt.
That was
Uh,
good.
Unfortunately,
Ballsy.
then the third and one, Zach couldn't get 1
They
yard,
couldn't get
and then they
there.
punt. Like, good God, it meant nothing. I would have just went for it again in that spot if you're gonna go for
Yeah,
it.
you know what I'm curious about, Jake, is like you watch the Eagles and they have the push sneak now, right, with Jalen Hurts.
Mhm.
And I get that the Eagles offensive line is elite, much better than the Jets offensive line, but why isn't everyone just doing that now? Like that play seems like it's unstoppable with Jalen Hurts. I don't think it'd be unstoppable with the Jets, but I think it'd be better than just letting the quarterback, who's not a big guy, plunge into the line and hope he gets the yard. Like, give him a push. Like, I don't get it. Like, I would be doing that.
I agree. Push the butt cheeks forward. It
Yeah,
works
just push
every
him.
time. If you just grab his ass and push it forward. That's all you got to do. I mean, it's different because Zach is not Jalen Hurts and is nowhere near the frame of him, but it seems to work almost every time. So I agree.
Yeah,
I
I
love a
would.
QB sneak, but I like the new 2023 version of it that the Eagles do.
I think it's eventually going to be outlawed, probably, but I would be trying to do it.
I think the Cardinals did it too, and great win for the Giants coming back. There was a few times I saw it around the league. It was a good football Sunday, but not for the Jets, who fall to 1-1. It's not all hope lost. You come home next week to hopefully a rockin' MetLife, not as
Yeah.
rockin'. I don't know if I'm
Big,
gonna make the
big
trip.
picture, Jake. Right? What do we say at the beginning of the season? 3-3. Right? The first 6 games. You get
3-3
through
is fine.
3-3, you feel pretty good because the schedule softens up in November. So they're on track. They're 1-1. They're on
Yeah,
track.
beat New England and beat Denver.
I mean,
Those
the
are the
win
two you
against
look at.
Buffalo is huge. That's a
Mhm,
huge, huge win,
mhm.
right? Because obviously it was 0-2 right now. We'd be singing a different song. So yeah, you still got New England, you still got Denver, which I think are both possibilities. I hard for me to see them beating the Chiefs,
No.
although the Chiefs haven't been world beaters so far, and hard for me to see them beating the Eagles. But Denver and New England, possible.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to trounce them, and then Chiefs. Yeah, Chiefs have been very sloppy. They barely won on Sunday. Did not look good. Their receivers have not been good. A lot of
Yeah,
drops. Mahomes is probably pulling his hair out, but I still think they'll
a
probably
lot
beat
of
the
them.
Jets in that game. That's a few weeks away. Listen, 1-1, rough game, but you move on. And good week of practice, and let's switch up the playbook. Like we say, get Hardman involved. Run the football. You can't go from 11-4 runs. There's no excuse next week. New England's defense is very good, but it is not Micah Parsons good. It's a top 10 defense. It's not a top 3 defense in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, Jake, maybe someone on the Jets will listen to this and they'll ask us for some advice on the offensive game plan against New England.
I would draw up a hell of a playbook, a fun playbook. A fun play I would draw up was the throwback to the offensive lineman the Patriots just did tonight. That was my favorite play of the NFL season so far.
Something almost worked.
A strange play by a guy named Strange. I mean, it worked out to perfection. Well, the Jets will play the Patriots. We'll preview that game on Thursday's Gangs All Here. Safe travels back to New York, and we will close out this episode next. Alrighty, good stuff there. Good breakdown from Kaz. That closes up episode 149 of Gangs All Here, our New York Jets podcast from the New York Post. Thanks to Andrew Hartz for helping me in producing the show. Catch up on all old episodes you may have missed by subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Amazon, wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe to the New York Post Sports YouTube page to watch full uncut episodes and clips. And you can see my video from the SNY studios on there, as well as the SNY YouTube, talking Jets, Giants, and Mets. So check that out and follow us on Twitter at Brian Kaz and at Jake Brown Radio. Well, the Jets, got to beat New England. I'm sorry. There's no must win this early, but this is a must win. You have to, exercise your demons against the Patriots. They have been the Jets' daddy for too long. And this Patriots team stinks. And Zach Wilson is not very good. But this Jets defense has to have a bounce back performance and beat the Patriots. We'll have a full preview of that game, but that's what my mind on. It's win, win, win. Win, 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 win. Gotta beat them. Because as bad as the Chiefs look, I don't see the Jets winning that. I don't see them beating the Eagles. Giants game will be tough. Chargers game will be tough. Listen, even when they go to the Raiders, that's not going to be easy. Go to Denver. That's not going to be easy. Miami twice. Miami is 2-0. Miami is in first place. 2 games against them. This schedule is daunting for the Jets. But it'll be less daunting if you win at home against these goddamn Patriots. So we'll preview that game on Thursday. For Brian Costello, I'm Jake Brown. We'll talk to you Thursday, and thanks for listening to Gangs All Here. And Lashana Tova. Happy New Year to all my Jewish folks that are out there listening. Thanks for listening, everybody.